Okay, everybody, it's great to see you all. Thank you for coming. My name is Tim Wirtz, and I did a course, I think it was late last year, November, December, called Meditation and the Keys to the Kingdom, which was 4 weeks, and it had a daily component to it. And then my teacher, Jeff Carrera, said, hey, do you want to do something else? You want to do something different? And I really thought that I wanted to do just another version of that. And then something happened at the beginning of the year. I'll share it, maybe not right now, but it just kind of took the steam out of me. Let's just put it that way. So, but I'd already committed to something that I just came up with in our conversation with Jeff called the Gospel of Wow. So I felt obligated to do it and push it all the way out to August. And sure enough, you know, it was a few weeks ago. I'm like, wow, got to do something, right? So, so here we are. So good news and bad news. The bad news, and it's not that bad really, is that this is a prelude, if you will, an introductory course. The session that I had planned for today called the Cosmic Heart, we're going to do next. Something happened this week, and we'll share it with you because I think it's very important. It also embodies everything that probably all of us tries to communicate when we talk about anything deeply spiritual. Okay. And with so I didn't prepare for the Cosmic Heart, but we'll talk about it. But I do have something I think you'll find touching, because it definitely touched me this past week. But I want to, so I introduce myself, Meditation and the Keys to Kingdom. Now, I'm not a meditation teacher. I think most of you probably know that. I'm actually an engineer, electrical engineer by degree, and been in the technology field for 30 years. I have been teaching meditation, however, for the last 3, 4, 5 years. I've been practicing for well over 20 years, probably 25, 26, 7 years, I don't know. And I've practiced a lot of different types of meditation. So it is very, very important to me, both for what it can bring to your life and also what it can reveal about life. And I love this exploration of pure consciousness, right? It's something that we cannot explain with science, and it is the juice of life. And I love combining what we're learning about consciousness and the benefits of meditation and contemplation with today, in a more modern scientific period, with scripture. So that's what we'll be doing throughout this series. So enough about me. You can always send an email if you got any questions. What I want to share today, I'll actually share my screen and just make sure you can see it. So I want to kind of introduce you to what I hope we can accomplish over these 5 sessions. The Gospel of Wow. I added this subline, Meditations on the Preciousness of Life, when I was coming up with this particular slide, just because it hit me pretty hard that when I had my own first and powerful spiritual experience back in 95, what came to me so clearly was that this life given is, without a doubt, such a precious jewel, right? And it resulted in me just getting on a spiritual path, exploring so many different things. So I'm very grateful for that. And it's brought about a lot of great friends. You almost could say like soulmates. And this is kind of what I want to share. This whole idea of the preciousness of life in different ways. But we picked this, always send an email if you got any questions. What I want to share today, I'll actually share my screen and just make sure you can see it. So I want to kind of introduce you to what I hope we can accomplish over these 5 sessions. The Gospel of Wow. I added this subline, meditations on the preciousness of life, when I was coming up with this particular slide, just because it hit me pretty hard that when I had my own first and powerful spiritual experience back in 95, what came to me so clearly was that this life given is, without a doubt, such a precious jewel, right? And it resulted in me just getting on a spiritual path, exploring so many different things. So I'm very grateful for that. And it's brought about a lot of great friends. You almost could say like soulmates. And this is kind of what I want to share. This whole idea of the preciousness of life in different ways. But we picked this, as I mentioned, with talking with Jeff, we picked this idea of the gospel being good news, right? But of wow. So today will be the introduction. Now, I'm pushing the cosmic heart. It's here, it's now, it's good, which is really an exploration around existence, around reality, or if you want to put it in a question, what or who is God? That's what we're exploring with the cosmic heart. The next session would be Float On, around the topic of surrender, of the power of relaxation, of silence, of stillness. Then the third session, Love Grows and the Heart Knows, where we look at the rhythms of growth that seems very apparent in this universe and life. And it also is a session about faith, living with trust and faith. The fourth session, The Naked Now, the Fig Leaf. Here we'll explore the book of Second Genesis about the Garden of Eden and about being the human condition, really. And then the fifth will be the Bittersweet Breakfast, the Great Commission. How does love play in this larger story in which we live? So what is this Gospel of Wow? You know, it's kind of hard to explain. On one hand, I think everybody can relate to just wow. There's those moments where you just go, wow. It could be good or bad, right? But it's like, wow, it impacts you. But this morning, yesterday, I couldn't remember Thomas Merton's name. Now, he's my favorite Christian mystic by far. I've read so many of his books, and I was just thinking like, Thomas. I couldn't. So I got to figure this out. I had a senior moment. So I went out there, typed it up, Thomas Merton. And then just like what the internet does, you start kind of looking around. And I came across a quote a writing of his, Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. And I knew about this situation. This is an experience that he had, his wow experience. And when I read it, I realized that it would be a very good way to share my own desires with you, and also to set up the larger context for where we are in the world today. So he was in Louisville. He says, in Louisville at the corner of 4th and Walnut, very specific situation. Wasn't a church. Matter of fact, in the center of the shopping district of all places. You know, the Buddha had the Bodhi tree. Jesus on the River Jordan before he went to the desert. Saul on the road to Damascus, right? Become Paul. Eckhart Tolle in a small room, laying in bed in the middle of England, thinking of suicide. So these things hits us, they will hit us anytime, anywhere. It doesn't have to be any sacred spot. He says, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization. Overwhelmed, right? What was overwhelming? And I love the word realization, to realize. It's nothing he did. It was not willpower. To realize, to make real. Something was already real, and he experienced it. And it was overwhelming. And here's what he says, that I loved all those people, that they were mine and I theirs. These are strangers. If you know Thomas Merton, you know this experience led him down his path. But before that, he was a little bit of a player. And here he is. He has this realization that he loved all these people. And this it makes me think of when in the Gospel of John, there's a situation where Jesus is interacting with the crowd. And I guess he feels like he's not getting through. And he almost throws up a prayer to God, right, to Abba, Papa. And he says, help me make them realize that you are in me, I am in you, and we are in them. We're in this thing together, right? We're in this thing together. And it's motivated by love. Then he continues that we could not be alien to one another. It doesn't, even though we were total strangers, and we're not alien. We're part, or as Emerson says, we're part or parcel of God, of creation, of life. We're not alien. We're not separate. Even if we think we are. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special world. What the Buddha say, right? Wake up. Wake up from this dream of separateness. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief, such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. I love this part because often you don't hear about this part. There's a sense of liberation. It doesn't mean his life conditions, he still had to pay his bills or whatever he's going through, but he was liberated from this illusion of difference. And it was a relief. It's like taking a weight off, or as Christ says, relieving ourselves. And it's joyous to know this. And I also like the fact that he almost laughed out loud. If you think about it, laughter is so healing. And I'm amazed that there's even humor and laughter that's been developed in the universe. It's quite amazing. Then he goes on. He says, I have the immense joy of being man, human, right? And a member of a race in which God himself became incarnate. Now, of course, Thomas Merton is Christian, right? And the idea of Jesus being God is not new. But especially if you're familiar with Richard Rohr or any of the more nature mystics, St. Francis, how can everything not be a creation of the Creator? Everything, including us, we're incarnate, right? And that means something. As if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me. Well, he admits what we all, especially nowadays, and I shouldn't say that. I'm sure every generation has had its worries, and I'll just share my own as a father of 2 boys. one in college, one in high school. Boy, can we be stupid, right? There's natural disasters that could happen, but the stupidity that feels like humans could inflict upon one another is astounding sometimes, and it causes great sorrow. Now, I will admit also, we can show great compassion and love and friendship, but that saying, well, we're human. We continue to prove that all the time with the issues we're dealing with nowadays. But as Merton says, now I realize what we all are. This gives me hope in a time where sometimes I can feel hopeless. My oldest son, who is in college, he came back his freshman year and he'd taken a class called The Physics of Climate Change. And I was always concerned about the climate, still am, for sure. And he explained what's actually going on, many different factors. And it was overwhelming, I'll be honest with you. It was like, we've got a challenge. But as what Merton says here, perhaps we're much more. We can tap into something, this greater thing that we are, that can help us come together and address issues like that. But first, we got to realize it, that we're not separate. And that's what he says, right? And if only everybody could realize this. And this is one of the reasons why I do what I do. It's always on the side. It's not my job, but to help people realize this. And here's the key, even though, as you can tell already, I talk a lot. I do like science. I like to philosophize. I like to explain things, but you can't explain it. You can't explain it. He can't explain it. He wrote many books, give plenty of lectures, but you cannot explain this realization, but you have to try. Because there's no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. And that's where I decided to stop it, because shining like the sun, right? Light shining through us, the light of consciousness, the light of God, the image of God, the mind of Christ, Buddha nature, Tao, you name it. So we're walking around shining like the sun, yet we're kind of living our own little isolated coveys, right? And we listen to what we continue to listen to. We just hold on to our little worldviews so hard and fight for them. And what I hope out of this series is really to find and to realize, but to understand that we've got these great common denominators that tie us all together, just as Merton was saying.